I'm a former digital director with over a decade of experience, and my very first launch was a complete failure. In this video, I'm going to explain what exactly went wrong and what it is that I would do differently, knowing what I know today. Hey friends, and welcome to my channel. I am Brianca Johnson, a launch and marketing strategist, and I specialize in helping my clients develop custom launch and marketing plans. Subscribe to my channel for weekly videos on all things launching, marketing, and entrepreneurship. So today's launch look is brought to you by Shein. There is a nice little black and white sweater dress, and I will link it in the comments below. All right, now let's get into it. I built my career as everything from a social media manager to a digital director to literally every role in marketing for national nonprofits, political campaigns, and small businesses across the country. But when it was time for me to make the transition from working in a more corporate structure to being a full-time entrepreneur, I decided that I would kind of like throw away everything that I knew about launching and marketing, and instead I would just heed the advice of the internet girls and how they were marketing and launching their business. I thought that there was some magic secret sauce to the whole thing, and that my decade of experience was somehow moot because I was transitioning into running my own business. And now I know that that's not true. And I think about, what it is that I would do differently when I planned my first launch, because my first launch was a complete failure. I didn't use any of the tools that I knew. I did not implement any of the strategies that we use in corporate America. I just kind of like popped on the internet and was like, hey girls, I'm hosting a webinar, click the link and sign up. And literally maybe 6 people signed up and none of them bought into my signature offer. And it was it was very discouraging because I knew that I knew how to launch and I knew that I knew how to market. And so it was just very much like, why did I not trust myself? Why did I not use the tools in my toolbox? And so in today's video, I really just want to talk about what it is that I would do differently. And I think that the reason that this video is so important is because there are so many entrepreneurs and small business owners who watch my channel who are trying to figure out what the steps are to successfully and profitably get their business in front of their ideal clients. And they just don't know because there's so much information on the internet. And so the very first thing that I would do is I would share my story. I think that this is one of the key things that I did wrong in my very first launch, is that I came onto the internet and I started talking about how I was an entrepreneur and how I had this business, but I really didn't talk about where the business came from or that I had experience doing this. And I didn't really position myself as someone who was trustworthy in the space because I was so busy trying to get people to buy from me that I didn't build a relationship and I didn't get them to buy into my story and who I am as a person and why I do things differently. And I think that that was one of the biggest mistakes because, as you all know, people buy from people who they like, who they know, and who they trust. And if they cannot connect their needs or their desires to your why and to your story, then the chances of them buying into it are just slim to none. And so looking back, I think I should have spent more time talking about my role as a digital director. I think I should have talked a lot about my why and why I decided to go full-time and why I decided to basically help other entrepreneurs, because it's directly connected to the work that I was doing as a digital director. Basically, when I was working for these nonprofits and these political campaigns, I would be inundated with small business owners, with entrepreneurs, with all of these people who literally had started these businesses, whether out of passion or need in the marketplace, and they just did not have access to their resources to get their business or their product in front of more of their ideal clients. And for whatever reason, it just annoyed me to my core, because it's like, if they had these resources, they could be making more money. They could be creating generational wealth, for themselves and for their families. And they couldn't, because all of the strategies that they know about marketing only are existing on Instagram. And that I know is not a real strategy. And I would have spent a little bit more time talking about my timeline and how I spent, years basically doing work as like a social media manager and a content creator long before I became a digital director and long before I decided to go full time. And I think that when we discount the value of our story, what we do is like we remove the connection that our ideal clients could make with us. Because instead of us giving them the opportunity to really connect themselves to why we want to serve them specifically or why we built this business, right? We're just like, buy from me, buy from me, buy from me. And no one wants to be sold to, but they do want to feel like they have a connection, a relationship to you. And I think that the fact that I am so vulnerable with my audience and with my clients, and that I give them the opportunity to build a genuine relationship with me, it's one of the reasons why I have seen such success in my business. And starting out, I didn't expect it to be a personal brand. That's not what I wanted it to be. But I realized that for me personally, building that relationship, building that connection was how I was able to get in front of my ideal clients. And so looking back, that's one of the things that I would have started doing earlier, would be to like really build that relationship and tell my story and connect it to my ideal clients, and get them to understand that like I didn't just want to be another service or another business or another coach on the internet who they bought from. I think the second thing that I would have done is really highlight my expertise. I think that, and I actually talked to a friend about this recently, I think that one of the things that I've struggled with, particularly as a Black woman who is very high achieving and hella smart, I think that one of the things I really struggle with is like this concept of not wanting to be braggadocious and not wanting to make anyone in the room feel uncomfortable, with my expertise or with the work that I have done. And so a lot of times I just don't talk about it. But the problem with not talking about your expertise and not talking about why you are the best is that people don't know that you're the best, and they don't know why they should trust you or why they should work with you. And so one of the things that I noticed is that the more that I started talking about my work as a digital director and talking about the campaigns that I have run and talking about the success of those campaigns or the success of my clients, the more that people started to look at me as an actual expert. And I think that there is a difference between you calling yourself an expert and your ideal clients in the marketplace seeing you as an expert. And that was one of the things that I really, really, truly, wanted to work on, is that I just didn't want to see myself as an expert. I wanted the marketplace to see me as an expert, and to value my expertise. But how could they if I was not willing to talk about it? And so I just started sharing more. I started sharing case studies. I started sharing screenshots. I started, when the girls would DM me, I started putting it on my stories and talking about, why they got this result. I know one of the things I used to do in the beginning, I would screenshot, the things that they were saying to me, and I would just put it on my story, and I wouldn't, bring it around full circle or talk about it or provide context and narrative to what was really going on in the screenshot. And I think that when I started doing that, my ideal clients were able to connect the dots. And so if you're starting out and you're thinking like, okay, what is it that I'm missing? I have the framework, I have the problem. I have the program, or I have the offer, I have all these things, right? But what is it that is preventing my ideal clients from seeing me as someone who they need to work with? Chances are you're probably not sharing your story in a meaningful and an impactful way consistently. You're also probably not really highlighting your expertise. And it could be because you don't want to feel braggadocious. It could be because you feel like your expertise is not valuable because maybe you bartered it, or because you learned it on your own, or you learned it on the trade. But like, if you do it better than other people, 80% of other people, or whatever, however you measure it, then that is an expertise. And you can talk about how you learned it. Like I learned about launching and marketing from school, from getting my degrees, from doing the things, but I didn't learn how to apply the theoretical principles that I learned while getting my bachelor's degree and while getting my master's degree until I started doing the work. And so I had to talk about the work that I did. I had to talk about, my roles as an intern, my roles working for my dad, my roles growing my business. A number of times that I grew my business and it failed. I got to talk about the fact that my business has been a business for 7 years, and it took me 5 years to figure out, okay, this is how I want it to look. This is how I want it to be done. And I cannot be embarrassed by that, right? Like, I have to lean into it because that is what it is. And so do not hide from your failures. Do not hide from the lessons that you have learned. Talk about them, because all of those things more than likely connect back to your ideal client, and it connects back to the path that they are currently on. It connects back to the reason that they are even looking at your profile or checking you out in that moment anyway. So those are like the top 2 things that I definitely feel like I would have done differently. And so I really want to hear from you. Like, what's the number 1 connection that you have to your ideal clients that you're failing to share, that you're skipping over? And why are you skipping over it? Let me know in the comments. Another thing that looking back I would do differently is I would definitely spend more time priming my audience and building relationships. Y'all, I think that I went full time in my business and immediately started selling. And what it did was cause distrust with my audience. And the reason that it caused distrust is because I had not spent enough time getting to know them and affording them the opportunity to get to know me and to buy into me before I started saying, like, give me your card, pay for this, pay for that, whatever. And so I think that more time that we spend highlighting our expertise and sharing our story and building those relationships and actually replying to comments and things like that. Like, I know for me, when I first got on the internet, all of the girls who I saw who were like big in their business, they all had all these followers, and they weren't following people back, and they were getting all these comments and they weren't commenting back. They weren't building, relationship and community. And so I thought that was what you had to do. And so I did it. And it took me a while to realize that that's not actually what I wanted. And that I wanted community and I wanted a 2-way interaction and communication. And I think that because I started figuring that out and I started investing more in those relationships, my ideal clients were able to buy into me. And what it did was it shortened my buyer's life cycle. So as you're thinking about, what is it that I want to launch? This is why I tell you to plan your launches, 12 weeks ahead, and to make sure that you have everything that you need, and that you have enough lead time to actually prime your audience. Because if you do not, they will not trust you enough to pay you. They will not know enough about you or your business or your offer to know that it's the right decision for them. So make sure that you are spending that time getting to know your ideal clients, getting to know what it is that they're looking for, their desires, their problems, their objections, and making sure that you're able to connect your content and your story to those things. And if you need help with that, there are a number of resources in the shop. You can click the link below and you'll get 15% off of Profitable People or Launch Made Simple. Those are going to be 2 very helpful programs. Profitable People will be great for you if you are looking to build a profitable audience. Launch Made Simple is going to be good for you if you are looking to profitably plan your launch without overwhelm. So check out those resources and let me know in the comments how you like them. Now, the very last thing that I would do is I would leverage my community to spread the word. So while I do not believe that your family and your friends are your first customers, I do believe that your family and your friends can help you get in front of your first customers. So kind of like businesses have brand ambassadors and they have affiliates and they have influencers and promoters and all the like, right? It's the very same thing for you and your business. Leverage the community that you already have access to, and ask them to share your flyer. Ask them to talk about your business in their stories. Ask them to highlight it and to promote it. And what you'll see is that you are getting in front of a wider audience. And the people who love you and support you are helping you to do that, even though they may not be your first customers. I think that I was so worried about my family and my friends not supporting me monetarily that I did not leverage their support in a more meaningful way, in a way that I really truly could have benefited from it. And so as you're thinking about your launch and your plan, think about, like, are there people in your immediate circle, in your circle of influence, who can help you spread the word? Because that is always beneficial to you, even if it's not a monetary exchange. If you need a little help planning your next launch, make sure that you click the link below and apply to work with me. Or snag the Launch Made Simple template and you can get 15% off your first order in the shop. Like this content? Show your love by liking this video and subscribing to the channel here. I'd love to connect with you on Instagram. All you have to do is screenshot this video and let me know where you came from. But before you go, don't forget to pop on over into the comments and let me know what's the #1 connection that you have with your ideal clients that you are not sharing, and why. See you next time, friend. Bye.